This is an ABC News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm David Muir here at ABC News headquarters in New York. We're following breaking news out of Washington at this hour. The president meeting just a short time ago with leaders of Congress, from the Senate, from the House. Just 4 days left until that fiscal cliff, until taxes go up for all Americans. The president is expected to speak moments from now. Our chief White House correspondent John Karl there in the briefing room. And John, I was struck by the email you sent moments ago from your White House source saying the meeting was, quote, not discouraging. This is something we haven't heard so far.
Yeah, that's incredible optimism given where we've been. In fact, the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, top Republican in the Senate, just a short while ago said he is hopeful and optimistic they can at least come up with a small deal, something to prevent some of these tax increases to going into effect, at least for the middle class, also looking for unemployment benefits to be extended. So there is movement over the next 24 hours. The top Democrat and Republican in the Senate will work at crafting that deal. But I've got to tell you, David, this will be a small deal. It will put off some of the bigger challenges till early in the year. For instance, it won't deal with the fact that the government is about to hit the limit on how much money it can borrow, once again raising the possibility that the U.S. government could default on its debts. So progress, yes, but moderate progress.
John Karl, thanks there in the briefing room, where we're expecting to hear from the president short time from now. Some viewers tweeting me just today that they don't want a small deal. They want a real deal. It'll be interesting to see how the American people respond if, in fact, it is a small deal that they come up with. The next 24 to 48 hours will be crucial. As we know, members of the House come back this weekend on Sunday. Members of the Senate are back in Washington. There's been a lot of criticism, growing anger in this country about lawmakers going home for the holiday with no deal on this fiscal cliff. As I mentioned moments ago, 4 days now until those tax cuts expire, meaning tax rates, taxes going up for all Americans, cuts to federal programs across the board. And what the president has been trying to do, his team, is to preserve tax cuts on most Americans while raising them on wealthier Americans. That's been a real sticking point with Republicans. But perhaps they talked about this just a short time ago. And as far as those deep cuts on federal programs, there's been debate over how deep those cuts should be, where they can find some common ground. And John, from your view, as we await the president here, in fact, he's coming out now. We'll talk to you in a moment. Here's President Obama speaking to the nation.
Good afternoon, everybody. For the past couple of months, I've been working with leaders of both parties to try and forge an agreement that would grow our economy and shrink the deficit. A balanced plan that would cut spending in a responsible way, but also ask the wealthiest Americans to pay a little more. And above all, protect our middle class and everybody who's striving to get into the middle class. I still want to get this done. It's the right thing to do for our families, for our businesses, and for our entire economy. But the hour for immediate action is here. It is now. We're now at the point where in just 4 days, every American's tax rates are scheduled to go up by law. Every American's paycheck will get considerably smaller. And that would be the wrong thing to do for our economy. It would be bad for middle-class families, and it would be bad for businesses that depend on family spending. Fortunately, Congress can prevent it from happening if they act right now. I just had a good and constructive discussion here at the White House with Senate and House leadership about how to prevent this tax hike on the middle class. And I'm optimistic we may still be able to reach an agreement that can pass both houses in time. Senators Reid and McConnell are working on such an agreement as we speak. But if an agreement isn't reached in time between Senator Reid and Senator McConnell, then I will urge Senator Reid to bring to the floor a basic package for an up or down vote, one that protects the middle class from an income tax hike, extends the vital lifeline of unemployment insurance to 2 million Americans looking for a job, and lays the groundwork for future cooperation on more economic growth and deficit reduction. Guys, I can hear you over here. I believe such a proposal could pass both houses with bipartisan majorities, as long as those leaders allow it to actually come to a vote. If members of the House or the Senate want to vote no, they can. But we should let everybody vote. That's the way this is supposed to work. If you can get a majority in the House and you can get a majority in the Senate, then we should be able to pass a bill. So the American people are watching what we do here. Obviously, their patience is already thin. This is deja vu all over again. America wonders why it is that in this town, for some reason, you can't get stuff done in an organized timetable. Why everything always has to wait till the last minute. Well, we're now at the last minute. And the American people are not going to have any patience for a politically self-inflicted wound to our economy. Not right now. The economy is growing, but sustaining that trend is going to require elected officials to do their jobs. The housing market is recovering, but that could be impacted if folks are seeing smaller paychecks. The unemployment rate is the lowest it's been since 2008. But already you're seeing businesses and consumers starting to hold back because of the dysfunction that they see in Washington. Economists, business leaders, all think that we're poised to grow in 2013, as long as politics in Washington don't get in the way of America's progress. So we've got to get this done. I just want to repeat, we had a constructive meeting today. Senators Reid and McConnell are discussing a potential agreement where we could get a bipartisan bill out of the Senate, over to the House, and done in a timely fashion so that we met the December 31st deadline. But given how things have been working in this town, we always have to wait and see until it actually happens. The one thing that the American people should not have to wait and see is some sort of action. So if we don't see an agreement between the two leaders in the Senate, I expect a bill to go on the floor, and I've asked Senator Reid to do this, put a bill on the floor that makes sure that taxes on middle-class families don't go up, that unemployment insurance is still available for 2 million people, and that lays the groundwork then for additional deficit reduction and economic growth steps that we can take in the new year. But let's not miss this deadline. That's the bare minimum that we should be able to get done. And it shouldn't be that hard, since Democrats and Republicans both say they don't want to see taxes go up on middle-class families. And I just have to repeat, outside of Washington, nobody understands how it is that this seems to be a repeat pattern over and over again. Ordinary folks, they do their jobs. They meet deadlines. They sit down and they discuss things, and then things happen. If there are disagreements, they sort through the disagreements. The notion that our elected leadership can't do the same thing is mind-boggling to them. It needs to stop. So I'm modestly optimistic that an agreement can be achieved. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they want, but let's make sure that middle-class families and the American economy, and in fact the world economy, aren't adversely impacted because people can't do their jobs. All right? Thank you very much, everybody.
President Obama leaving the briefing room there, saying the American people are watching what we do here. The hour for immediate action is here. He called the meeting with House leaders, Senate leaders, good and constructive late today at the White House, and our chief White House correspondent, John Carl, there in the briefing room. John, a lot of people are going to be talking about this bare minimum that he spoke of, that if they don't come up with an agreement, he wants the bare minimum to be voted on the Senate floor, which would extend tax cuts for the middle class, extend unemployment insurance benefits for people without jobs right now, leaving the rest, as he put it, to debate down the road. John, what do you make of the bare minimum if this agreement doesn't happen? He said he'll force it. He'll expect a bill on the Senate floor.
Well, what's significant here is what's not being done. Even if they can pull this off in the next few days, and it will not be easy, David, we're talking about no significant spending cuts, so nothing to address the deficit issue and nothing to address the fact that the debt ceiling is about to be hit. But even this bare minimum the president was just urging action on is going to be tough. The real key is if McConnell and Reid, the top Democrat and top Republican in the Senate, can come to agreement. If they can't come to agreement even on that fallback plan, the possibility of the president getting through his plan, exactly what he wanted, through the House and the Senate by the end of the year, I would say is essentially non-existent.
And John, realistically, as you just point out, he gets a bill voted on in the Senate, then where does it go from there?
Right. I mean, you have a Republican-controlled House. The only way this can happen is with bipartisan support. That's why the most important period right now is the next 24 hours when Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid will be trying to come up with some kind of an agreement. Again, the bare minimum to at least guarantee that tax rates don't go up for everybody in just 4 days.
All right, our chief White House correspondent John Karl there in the briefing room. You heard the president there call it a constructive meeting, reasonably optimistic that lawmakers in Washington can come up with a plan, though he did say ordinary Americans are wondering why it always comes to this, to the 11th hour, and he's right, given the comments we heard from so many of our viewers today.